with this game, like what I'm working for, and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of what this video is going to be. Originally, my plan was to go for the Nightmare Helm 3, which if we go here, the Nightmare Helm 1, 50 Hell Bars is the hardest part, 45 Vulcan Bars, and 30 Nightmare Ingots, and then I already have 4 Dark Hearts, so I just need to get one more, which is a pretty attainable goal. I already have a decent amount of resources. I can go over here and show that, right? So I've got almost 10 Vulcan Bars, 5 Nightmare Bars, and then 30 Hell Bars. So I'm not too far off. That's something I could probably get in a month and a half, because again, I don't spend money on gems in this game. But I was thinking, right, my main goal for this game is to not be one-shotted by any boss. And currently, the Evil Santa boss can deal 184 damage in one hit when I'm running full defense, which is this build right here, and that only gives me 81 health. Well, if I did the Nightmare Helm 3 build, I would gain 4 defense because my helmet would go from 11 to 15. However, I would lose 3 health. So I'd go from 81 to 78 health. And I was thinking, that's not going to help me survive a crit because of how defense works in this game after the boost. So I would go from being hit from 84 to, if I'm lucky, 81. But most likely I'd still be hit for 82. And so I'd still be 3 to 4 health off from not being one-shot. So I'm like, okay, I don't really want to go for Nightmare Helm anymore. It's something I definitely want to get at some point, but not right now. And so I'm looking at my options. You know, I've been debating for a couple days. I'm like, what do I want to do? And then, if you saw my post the other day, I got this thing from a Master Key, which is the Dragon Blade 1. I'm like, you know, the Tsurugi 5 is a great weapon. I've been using it for a long time. But I'm like, there are technically better weapons out there. Like, if I go to the weapons, right? Obviously, we got Devil Wing, Tsurugi 5, so it's the Tsurugi 4. I misspoke earlier. The Tsurugi 4 is good, but I could get the Tsurugi 5. I could get the Nightmare Blade 3. But now, the Dragon Blade 3 is on the table, which is just cheaper in general than the Nightmare Blade 3. But also, there's this new sword. The Ultimate Santa's Blade, which I've been damage testing for, but it seems like the best sword in the game. So I'm like, okay, I gotta compare resources. Right now, my 3 options are Santa's Blade, Dragon's Blade, and the Devil Wing Sword, because I'm not gonna go for the Nightmare Blade 3. I just don't want to have to grind another 5 Dark Hearts. That doesn't seem plausible. So I'm like, what's the hardest part of the sword of each of these? For this one, it's the 75 Forbidden Bars. And for Devil Wing, it's basically 200 Vulcan Bars. And for this one, it's the 10 Sky Stones, which are kind of independent, so I'm not going to talk about them yet. But mostly, it's the 99 Forbidden Bars. So I'm like, okay, if I go for the Dragon's Blade, I could always get to 75, and then from there, do a week of seeing how hard it is to really get Sky Stones, because I haven't really tested that. And then from there, decide, do I want to just get Dragon's Blade, or do I want to get the Santa's Blade? Now, I haven't done damage testing in a while, like a long time, so I don't know where the Santa's Blade damage is at. And so that's kind of what I'm here to show today, and my process for which of the 3 swords to choose. So I'm going to go over to Desmos, the graphing app. I'm going to explain what I have here because there are a lot of lines on the screen, right? Okay. If it loads. Hold on. Come on. Okay. So if I pull this tab over, you can see all my equations. All of the diagonal lines are damage numbers. So the red line, this very bottom one, that goes up across the screen, is kind of my test. This is my current damage, right? So you have my damage plus any added damage times my hits per second to find my damage per second. So at base, it is doing 323 damage a second. Like, okay. So now if we go to Devil Wing, which is the blue one, that is there, slightly below the Dragon Sword, which is that green one, And then way above them all is the purple sword, the Santa's Blade. However, this is their damage with nothing added, just base. So then I have these equations down here, which are my different attack levels. So if I'm doing full tank setup, this should actually be 16 now that I think about it. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. My apologies. 16. Okay. So, at my full tank setup, still Santa's Blade is the best, followed by Deviline and Dragon's Blade being basically tied, but with Deviline being slightly higher. Right? And so then we go to DPS without attack rings. So that is the red one, which is right here. And at this point, Deviline is already doing the most damage, followed by the Santa's Blade, and then the Dragon's Blade. Right, and if we look at these two, because we know that one's the most, this is doing 466 at Santa Blade. We're doing 456 at Dragon's Blade. And we are doing 474 even on Deviline. So again, these are some very close numbers. So just keep that in mind, that whichever one I choose, these are all still very close. And then this 32 right here, this is for if I'm using the Dark Moonblade Shield. And at this point, here are my three numbers. I have Santa's Blade on top, followed by Deviline, followed by Dragon Blade 3. Right? This is, again, what I'm expecting. Because Deviline attacks faster, the more added damage I have, the higher DPS, because it's applying that added damage faster than the other swords. And so that's why you can see it sort of skyrocketing compared to the rest. And finally, I went to my highest damage currently, which is plus 76. And so here are our numbers. 502 is my best one with the Deviline sword, followed by 487, so a 13 decrease in damage, followed by 480, which is a 20 damage per second decrease. Which again, at the biggest difference, it's only different by 20 damage a second, which is not that much. That is maybe one extra hit against normal adds, and maybe a little more than that for bosses. But again, they're all very similar. So, I'm like, okay, all of their damages are very similar, and the Deviline only helps me when I'm DPSing. If I'm over here on these two, the Santa's Blade is still better, and at base, the Dragon's Blade is better than Deviline. So I'm like, okay, how do I decide which sword to get? Because obviously, if I wanted to just do pure damage, I would do Deviline. Right here, I would grind out the Vulcan bars, and in 5-6 months maybe, depending on how much I play with college and everything, I would probably have Deviline, and I would have the highest DPS in the game. DPS weapon, I should say. I still need my gear to be better. But here's my thing with Deviline, though. First off, it's a little bit smaller than the other weapons, but it also deals no knockback. On top of this, most of the time, I'm not doing full damage. I'm playing solo with the gear I have here, which is at plus 12. So at this point, Dragon's Blade is equal, but it deals knockback, and Santa's Sword is better, and I'm hoping deals knockback. Again, I don't know for sure. I wish they'd tell you in the description, but I'm guessing it does, because most swords do. So, I'm like, okay, how do I choose between these two? Because obviously, this one is way more expensive than this one. So what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to grind for Dragon's Blade 3. I'm going to get Dragon's Blade 2 at some point. I don't know when, but I'm going to get it. And then for Dragon's Blade 3, I'm going to grind until I can craft it. So until I have the 75 Forbidden Bars. Once I do that, I'm not going to immediately craft it. I'm going to give myself 1 week in Forbidden City. Right? As that's the place you get the components needed for Sky Stones, which to refresh you, for 3 Forbidden Stones. Everything else I can get other places, it's mostly those Forbidden Stones. So I'm going to give myself 1 week. And if it seems like it's not going to take me a whole year to get those 10 Sky Stones, then I'm going to get the Santa Sword. If it does, I'm going to get Dragon's Blade, because I don't want to spend that much time just doing the Forbidden City. But also, the Dragon's Blade looks really cool. I love the design of it. It's animated. The Santa Blade, while it's really good, I don't really like how it looks. Like, it's just kind of a Christmas tree. Like, it's fine. It's just not my type of thing. So, goal number 1 right now is to go for that Dragon's Blade 3. Because, again, just not having knockback, I don't like, even though it would speed up bosses slightly. But I don't think it would be enough to notice compared to the add clear potential that these other 2 swords do because they have knockback and can keep them away from myself. Now, after that, though, I'm not going to immediately go into the Nightmare Helm 3. I'm actually going to try to craft the Armoring 5, sorry. The Armoring, no, that's 6. Man, my Roman numerals need work. Armoring 6. And the reason why is I can use that to craft a second Chocolate Ring 5, and this would make it so nothing in the game can one-shot me. The reason being is if I just craft this, I'd be losing 5 more health for a 2 to 3 damage decrease, so that doesn't make sense. Whereas with this, I'm still gaining that defense, but I'm also gaining health, and so I won't get one-shot. So I'm going to grind for this to make, for the Armoring 6, so I can make the Chocolate Ring 5. And then after that, finally, I'm going to go for the Nightmare Helmet 3. And after that, I don't have a clue what I would go for, because I'm kind of happy at that point. Yeah, that's the plan going forward for right now. Doing Dragon's Blade 3. Then Armoring 6, followed very closely by the Chocolate Ring 5. And lastly, the Nightmare Helmet 3. So I hope you enjoyed. As far as YouTube goes, I do plan to keep posting. And I have a little series coming up I want to start called How Do I Get That? Where I go through and just tell you the different ways and the best ways to farm different items. So be on the lookout for that. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you all later. If I can end my recording software. Hold on, guys. There we go. All right. Now I can end my software. Have a good day.